First of all, I would like to, thank you for accepting my invitation and being here today with me to, discuss your ideas and philosophy over football and throw-ins with the Greek audience.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So before anything, I have to ask if you and your family are fine, are okay amid this coronavirus pandemic we are all getting through.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I have like a wife and two kids on 17 and 15, a boy and a girl, and yeah, they're home from school, but they're doing a lot of things like online but we're pretty okay in Denmark. We are like opening the society a little bit now with the youngest children coming to school, and some can go to work again, and so yeah. But let's see, I'm just taking everything just calm and easy because of course football is totally closed down at the moment. But
yes,
I hope it'll begin again in like a month or two, and then let's see what happens.
Maybe sooner in some countries, but yeah, it's going pretty good across Europe, most of Europe, yeah. So taking it from the start, you are a self-taught, let's say, specialist in throwing tactics and technique. How did it all begin? I mean, when and why did you say to yourself that this thing is serious, this thing is interesting, and I need to work with it?
Yeah, first of all, to make a long story short, then I've been playing football myself as a youth elite football player, U19, the best league in Denmark. As a kid, I also saw my big cousins Bent and Johnny make good throw-ins, long throw-ins. So I also rehearsed that, and it became a specialty. But I wasn't good enough to be a football pro player, so I went in the mid-90s to the Danish athletics national team. The first year I was training, I was on the national team running 100, 200, and 400 meters. Also the relay, several-time Danish champions, and 1 year with my club relay team, we also won the European Championship in 4x400 meters. But in 2002, I was still at my top. I just set personal records in 100 and 200 meters. But I was moving to the western part of Denmark, where I'm living now, because of my wife. And suddenly I was training alone instead of a team. And then I had to find a new sport. It had to be a team sport, but also a sport where I could use my strengths. So in 2002, I went to the Danish national bobsleigh team, and I was driving there in this bobsleigh team, traveling all around the world. And our goal was to come to the Olympics in Turin in 2006. And it was in the middle of that bobsleigh period in 2004, I thought, hey, if I can make a good throw in myself, can't I teach other players to do it? So I went down to my local library and hoped to find that book about throw-ins, but there was no books at all. And
of course there wasn't, yeah. Of course there wasn't.
And nothing serious on the internet. So I used approximately 6 months to make a throw-in course. At first it was only the long throw-ins. And then after 6 months I had to have a club, and it could be a youth club or amateur club, but I had the courage to contact the local Superliga team from Denmark called Viborg, and they said yes, and they scored a lot of goals after the long throw-in, so that was a success. Yeah. So since 2004, been coaching a lot of professional teams, and like the first couple of years, it was only like the long throw-ins I was coaching. But then suddenly a day, I think it was in like 2008, I saw that, hey, my team here, they are losing the ball all the time when they have a normal throw in the middle of the pitch in their own half. So I developed this theory called the long, fast, and clever throw-in. But my challenge was that the clubs I was coaching, they only wanted to have my knowledge about the long throw-in.
Yeah.
It was only until Jurgen Klopp called me in the start of July 2018 that I've been able to.
Yeah, in the summer of 2018. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just really happy. It's like an adventure for me.
You had the Guinness World Record for long throw-ins, and that was back in the day when you were visiting and attending football camps. I saw some videos on your YouTube channel. You had some tips and some advice for players. This was this period between bobsleigh and football, or you have already turned into football
No, at that time, I was already a throwing coach because I've been
you
coaching
were already a throwing coach.
Since 2004. But in 2008, I thought, hey, if I'm a good throwing coach, it could also be good to have the longest throw-in in the world. So so I decided to try to beat the world record. And first of all, it was with a flip throw-in when you are running, make a flip. And I'm not a gymnast. I'm a non-gymnast, so I had to learn from the start. And then first I had a record attempt in 2008 in the match between Denmark and Spain in the national stadium. And in 2009, I had a attempt in a match between Hertha Berlin and Wolfsburg on the Olympic Stadium in Berlin with 40,000 spectators. But then I beat it in 2010. And yes, it was like on a girls' football camp, but that was just a coincidence. It was just June 2010. So
everyone needs to know it.
Yeah.
And to know the technique.
Yeah. So that's. So in 2010, I beat the world record with 51.33 meters. So
maybe that's why all the teams wanted from you to learn to them the long throwing, and didn't even think about producing tactics for keeping the ball and preserving the possession. That those tactics came later. And I need to ask that in Denmark, you started from local teams. Yeah, you said it, and you worked with Horsens and the champions Midtjylland. You brought in some tactics like those, preserving the ball possession or scoring some goals with movements, or it was just the long throw-ins there?
No, I had the knowledge about the thing. I can explain it later about the long, fast and clever throw-in, but I had the knowledge of the throw-ins all over the pitch. But all my teams until Liverpool FC only wanted my knowledge about the long throw-in. And it, for example, in FC Midtjylland, it was a big success. In 4 seasons, we scored 35 goals on long throw-ins. In 1 season in Horsens, we scored 10 goals after long throw-ins. So yes, you can have success with long throw-ins, but you also have to have a physical team. And I was really frustrated because I knew that all the other throw-ins all around the pitch were even more important, and especially for teams who are not like totally big guys. And but I tried everything I could with all the other teams before Liverpool, just to say, hey, I have some knowledge, we can do this and we can do this and do this, and we're losing the ball all the time. And I know that they just wanted to. So I think it was something about the football culture. I think many places the football culture has been conservative. So, but when Jurgen Klopp like called me, he said that we had a fantastic season in 2017-18 season.
It was a team that just had very recently reached the Champions League final. So it was a big success for that team.
Yeah, it was a big success in 17-18 season, but Jurgen Klopp said we were really bad at the throw-ins. We lost the ball almost all the time, and later some analysis people have seen that in Liverpool in 17-18 season, Liverpool were only number 18 out of 20 in the Premier League with a possession on 45.4%. So that was before I came. So Jurgen Klopp called me and said, I tried to do something, but it didn't work. So he invited me to Melwood, and
so he had some ideas previously, ideas of his own.
Yeah, he had some ideas like any other managers and coaches.
Yeah,
but like most other managers and coaches, it doesn't work because they lack the knowledge. So, but Jurgen was so open-minded that he said, okay, I invite you to a meeting. Let me hear what you have to say. And it was not like Jurgen had to say, I did this, I did this, I did this, see me. No, it's more like, I know you know a lot. Tell me everything. And already after, Jurgen have said himself that before the meeting he was really positive, but after the meeting he was 100% sure he wanted to employ me. So and it also worked like in my first season with Liverpool, we we improved from 45.4% possession with throw-ins under pressure where everybody is marked before I came to 68.4%, and we went from number 18 in the Premier League to number 1. And it's pretty simple. If you have to keep the possession, then you have control, because if you lose the ball, you're often caught out of balance. And if you keep possession, you can also create chances and score goals. And for example, in this season, in Liverpool, we scored 13 goals after throw-in situations. It's not the long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal. No, it's more like situations all over the pitch. And of course, there are some like obvious ones. We saw the winner against Tottenham. We saw the winner against Wolves. That was both. But we've done like 11 more that not so many see, because they don't know we're doing something special. We rehearsed in training. So throw-ins are very important. There are normally between 40 and 60 throw-ins in a match. So it's not a marginal gain. It's a thing that happens a lot.
It's 40 or 60 passes, and someone could say that you taught Liverpool players how to pass the ball in another way.
Yeah, at least with the hands, but it's also important for me to say I'm not only coaching the fullbacks and the people who are throwing. I'm coaching the whole team. So I'm coaching how they should create space, when they should throw fast, when they should wait. So it's like 4 or 5 people. Like sometimes it's all the players in Liverpool I coach in training. It could be like 2 teams of 9, but it could also be like 11 versus 11, full pitch, full intensity. Yeah. Then we have throw-in situations. And I'm also doing like video analysis for the team, also doing talks. So both the players and Jurgen Klopp and the other coaches can see what should we do. And then I'm at Liverpool like 6-7 weeks per season, and the weeks I'm not there, I'm doing video analysis, and then I'm also sending the throw-in analysis to Jurgen and the other coaches. So
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. That you didn't move to Liverpool to live there. You just visited the city and the training ground for some weeks in the season and send the analysis, right? Okay. Yeah. I read somewhere in one of your previous interviews that this was meant to be kept as a secret. Yeah. Liverpool hiring you, but you know how people is. They get ecstatic about those things. It spread quite quickly, and I remember myself writing the news that Jurgen Klopp hired you, and I was discussing it with my colleagues, and I was saying, well, that man Jurgen, he counts every detail. I was thinking about Jurgen, and after 1 year, after 1 season, after seeing the results, I think that the most appropriate thing to say is that man Thomas, he knows well about football. He knows much about football, and that's the most, I think, most serious thing that you have achieved in your career, and your career doesn't stop here, but continues further, I guess. You said that you're very willing to work in German clubs. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll say first of all, I'm a freelance coach. So of course, I've been working two seasons with Liverpool now, and of course, like winning Champions League, the World Championship club teams. Hope we get the Premier League this year. Let's see. But I'm also freelance. For example, this season I'm also coaching like Ajax from Holland, Genk from Belgium, Atlanta United from the States, FC Midtjylland in Denmark. So the only thing I have is like I try not to coach like 2 rival teams from the same league. I will never like coach. Mm-hmm. I'll never like coach Liverpool and Tottenham in the same season. I will never. Let's say that I, for example, would coach a team in the bottom of the league. I'll never like coach one of the competitors, because that's really hard to do in the same season. There'll be problems with fans and everything. Of course, I hope to. I don't know what will happen next season. Of course, I hope to continue with Liverpool, but let's see. We haven't really made a contract yet. So, but yes, I'm a freelance throwing coach, and that's the reason why I'm living in Denmark, because I'm traveling so much. I'm traveling like I don't know, 30 weeks or 35 weeks per year. So just want to keep my family here. So yeah.
Did you feel like you played a big role to the Liverpool team winning Champions League or making a good run in the Premier League last year and an even better run this year. So do you feel like, yes, I was a real part of this? And if you feel this, is that a great feel?
Yes, yeah, I feel I'm a big part of that because, again, as I said before, there are 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match. Most teams have possession in under 50% of the throw-ins under pressure where everybody is marked. We had like games, the first game against Tottenham this season in Premier League, we had 9 out of 9 throw-ins under pressure. That's 100% possession. Tottenham had 4 out of 16. That's 25%. In the first championship game against Bayern Munich last year, we had about 70% possession. And Bayern Munich had 28 because every time Bayern Munich couldn't throw it fast, it just threw it down the line, and that's the worst thing you can do. So in all games, we're like beating the opponents with 20, 30, 40% possession, and even extreme cases like, for example, Tottenham, we had 75% more possession. So it's important, and it's also important to say it's not only the throw-in, because when I get throw-ins from Liverpool, I'm getting the attacking, defending throw-ins. It's just before the throw-in and then the following situation. And each of these videos are normally between 7.5 and 10 minutes. So normally the throw-in and the related situation afterwards, it's taking like 15 to 20 minutes of a match. So first, it's a big part of what happens and how you can succeed. So of course, it's hard to say if I have been like been improving together with the team. If we've been improving the team's results with 5% or it's 20%, it's hard to measure. But I can just say it has a big influence on Liverpool's performance. So I'm happy. But again, it's important for me to say that even though I'm coming with the knowledge, it's like a teamwork. If the players aren't buying in, if the coaches, Jurgen Klopp isn't supportive, if the physical team, if I'm not talking with them, if I'm not working with the analysis people, then it's not so good. So yeah, I think I've had a big importance for Liverpool's results. But again, it's a teamwork. So but again, I'm really proud of what has happened, and again, for me, it's like an adventure. I'm often like pinching my arm to see if it's real.
If it's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally true, and yeah. So I'm just happy. Let's see what the future brings.
Okay, you said something before that there are the minutes that affect the whole throwing situation are really important and are a great number. I mean, maybe 10% of the whole 90-minute football match. And there is a great conversation that says that in a football match of 90 minutes, only the 60 minutes are being played. And they blame the throw-ins or the goal kicks and, the corner kicks. But you say, let's say the opposite, that the minutes before and after the throw-in and the minutes while you are executing the throw-in are really important, like you're already playing in the field. They are not non-playing time. They are playing time in their own way, right?
Yeah.
That's a very new idea.
Yeah.
In the world of football.
And I'll also say that some people have said, "Oh, we shouldn't have throw-ins." But first of all, there are there are some people who have looked at what happens when we have a kick-in. For example, there's a video on Tifo football. It's called on YouTube, where they have been like looking at what will happen if we have kick-ins. First of all, it will be much worse. If we had kick-ins, you'll see it'll be much more boring. You'll have people making a lot of long kicks suddenly, especially like the destructive teams, like really physical teams. And then I'll also say that if you are like working with the throw-ins, with the knowledge I have with the long, fast and clever throw-ins, with creating space, everything, I have 3 zones, 50 different throw-in tools and so, then it's much more entertaining. But of course, right now I can only learn it to the clubs I'm coaching. But in the future, I'm writing on a book. I don't know if I'll publish in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. But when people see this book, I will also be able to learn it to youth coaches, amateur coaches, and so. And then the level of the throw-ins would really raise. It's a little bit like if you're seeing the build up in basketball too, you know, there's a lot of really interesting things they're doing with movements and everything. And in basketball, it's really entertaining what they're doing. In football at the moment, it's only like, for most clubs, it's only like, okay, let's just see if we can keep it. Let's just throw it down the line. And it's not good for the clubs, but it's also really boring for the audience to see through like this. So when I've been releasing my book in the future and my online courses, then you'll see that the level of the throw-ins are really improving. And then it's, instead of a boring thing, it will be a little bit like Liverpool, that it's exciting to see what they're doing now to create space and to keep the ball and to create chances and score goals with throw-ins. So yeah, I just look forward to that.
Many managers say that we're gonna lose it, so let's lose it far away from our goal.
Yeah,
that's the least we can do. And that's you say, and your story so far seems to say that this is all wrong from the start of the beginning. It is wrong. And I've heard from you before in other interviews that the managers know that we can make 40 to 60 passes out of throw-ins, and though they are working on corner kicks and combinations. Let's raise one hand and you go first post, you go second post, you mark them, you mark him, you mark the big six, the big defender, and we close our eyes to the 40 to 60 passes that we can produce from throw-ins. That's really bad. I mean, you see how Liverpool have improved in 1 year, and you wonder, is Thomas so great, without undermining their job, of course, but or are the other teams so awful in taking throw-ins in our football days?
Yeah, it's only about, for me, it's just a lack of knowledge. No one has really like looked at throw-ins, because a lot of people are like laughing at throw-ins, and a lot of people have said to me that's crazy, or they laugh at you being a throwing coach. But that's always the way when you're the first, when you're like the first to take steps somewhere. People would, not all, but a lot of people look at you like you're totally weird. Of course, I have a lot of support from all around the world, from analysis people, from coaches, managers. People write me every day, so there's a lot of support, but also a lot of people who think I'm crazy or it's totally weird or so. So for me, it's not because they're not good coaches or managers. If they haven't really thought about throw-ins, they've just been lacking knowledge. So I know I'm a little bit special, but since I was a kid, I was passionate for throw-ins. Since 2004, I've been thinking about throw-ins every day, working with it, also dreaming about throw-ins someday. So if you have to bring places somewhere, you have to have one or some guys who are really like pulling the wheel to, and that's my job at the moment. And so I think it's just a lack of knowledge. It's just like, as you said before, we just throw it 30 meters down the line and hope we'll keep it. If we don't, it's a little bit away from our goal. But again, it's just the worst thing you can do with it, because you often lose the duel, or if you win the duel, you'll often like flick it on to the central defender of the opponent. So, but again, I think it's just a lack of knowledge. They don't know what to do, because yeah, of course they can like do one or two things, but you know, often if you only have like one or two things to do when you have a situation, it's easy to read. So it's easy to cover teams who are throwing it down the line. I'm not saying that you can never keep the ball off the throw down the line, because sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes I also see like some teams are just making a throw in backwards to a free play, and then he just shoot it down the line again. And of course it can work sometimes, but first of all, it's easy to see if they normally do it, and it's also pretty easy to cover like all other unreflected long balls. So I think it's just a matter of knowledge and accessible knowledge, because the clubs who are hiring me, they have my knowledge, and even, you know, with live training and analysis. But even though the managers from the competing clubs are reading articles about me, and so then they don't know really how do they do it. How do they do it on the pitch? So they have like they can perhaps see like 15-20% of what Liverpool is doing on social media because someone is, they did this and did this, but they haven't got the full picture and they don't know how to train it to the players. So I think it's a lack of knowledge. But
as you said before, Jurgen himself had an idea and what should be appropriate, but it wouldn't work. So he needed you and to hire you and your knowledge. So last question, in the end of the day, would you like to be remembered as Thomas, the guy who came up with this bright idea and he was the only one working on it, or as Thomas Grønnemark, the master that showed the world the new path and made a whole new school of football tactics and philosophy?
I'll rather be the guy who learns the world something new and teach teams and coaches new things about throw-ins, because I've always said, like, if I'm talking with people, that it's like a dream for me to coach clubs like Liverpool FC and Ajax, RB Leipzig, been coaching them too, and there'll of course also be big teams in the future too. But my biggest dream is to change the football world. So because I've been playing a lot of football myself, I do it sometimes myself still, just for fun. But my biggest dream would be to change the football world, and I can only change the football world if I am helping coaches and football people all over the world. Because if it's only like about me, what do I perform? What big clubs do I coach? Of course, it's great, but it's not the biggest thing. So I hope that people will remember me as the guy who changed throw-ins and helped football to be an even more entertaining game than it is right now.
Wouldn't you be proud if someone else came up and said, okay, I read your book, let's say, in 1 or 2 years from now, and I know how to teach, and there would be 2 Thomas Grønnemarks or 3 Thomas Grønnemarks in some years from now, and a whole new school of new coaches in throw-ins, like we have goalkeeping coaches, like we have physical condition coaches.
Yeah.
Each team will have its throwing coach or master, let's say.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make you proud?
Yeah,
I started all this.
Yeah, I'd be very proud. I'll be really, really proud because, first of all, I can't teach all clubs in the world with live coaching. So I'd be proud. Like even I have 8 professional teams this season, and I'm really busy. So, and there are I don't know how many professional teams in the world. And for me, it's also like teaching youth clubs and amateur clubs. I wrote with an Australian guy, a couple of days ago. He said only in Australia there's more than 10,000 football coaches, and that's what was only in Australia. So I haven't really got the number, but I think there are several of million football coaches all around the world. So there's plenty of room for other guys who are teaching the throw-ins, the long, the fast, clever throw-in, and it could also just be like assistant coaches who are really taking like an education. Perhaps I'll make an education in the future also for them to be educated as throwing coaches. So yeah, that'll just that'll make me happy. So, but I think the big jump will be like when I'm like publishing my book and my online courses, and if people like to follow that, in the next couple of days I have a new website, thomasgrønnemark.com, so people can just take a look in there. It's ready, I think, tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
So or just follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Instagram, or something like that, because I just want to inspire so many, not only coaches, but also players and analysis people as possible. Also the spectators, the audience too. So yeah.
My last comment is that you just opened the door to the football world, and we are very willing to walk in and to see what's your secrets and what's your ideas and your philosophy on football. So once again, thank you very much for being with us and with the Greek audience. I really appreciate it. And what I could wish is to see you live in some of your courses or in stadiums and discuss football next year.
Yeah, and I'll just say, just to make my end comment, I love to visit Greece. It could be like for a club, it could be like for a course in the future, or like a talk. I've been to Greece twice. I've been to Rhodes, but also been to Athens also. So, and especially Athens, I really fell in love with that. So I have to return to Athens again. I love the Greek culture, the history, the sculptures, everything. So yeah. Hope
they are all over Greece, not only in Athens, only in Rhodes. You know it.
I know
you should turn around all Greece to find everything you need to see and take in your mind. So I'm calling you from Thessaloniki, northern Greece, which is a very extraordinary city in my eyes. So you're very welcome to come here and have a great time whenever you want. Thank you again for this interview.